Why are people in Russia afraid to be in their position? This video analyzes the nature of fear associated with holding an oppositional stance in contemporary Russian, how this fear emerged, how it manifests, and how it affects different social groups in different ways, including migrants. Special attention is given to the concept of closing one's eyes, zazhmyurivanie, a strategy of psychological adaptation described by sociological and political researcher Ekaterina Shulman. The video will be of interest to those studying psychology, political psychology, and contemporary social processes. If you would like to learn more about the historical roots of the fear of being in the opposition in Russian, I strongly encourage you to purchase my online educational course, The History of Soviet Russian. You can find the further details and the link in the description of this video. Why people in Russia are afraid to be in their position, and why this is not cowardice. In Russian, the fear of being in their position is not merely a personal emotion or a trait of a weak character. It's a socially learned condition, shaped by history, institutions, and everyday experience. Most people do not actively support the authorities. They are afraid of being against them. It's important to say this from the outset. This fear is rational. First, what exactly is a fear? It's not always fear of arrest or imprisonment. More often it takes subtler forms. Better not draw attention to myself. I have too much to lose. I will not change anything anyway. This is not panic, but a background strategy of avoidance. People learned not to speak, not to write, not to like posts, and not to discuss political issues, just in case. Why this fear has formed historical memory? In Russian history, dissent has almost always been personalized and punished. Repression, exile, loss of profession, and stigmatization of family members. Even if people do not know the historical details, cultural memory still operates. This has always ended badly. Repression uncertainly. What is most frightening is not the severity of punishment, but its unpredictability. No one knows where the boundary of what is permissible lies, what is acceptable today but forbidden tomorrow, which word, post, and conversation might become a problem. This produces self-censorship, which can be more effective than direct prohibition. Collective loneliness. Many people think, I am the only one who thinks this way. Fear intensifies when opposition views are not visible in public. People remain silent around one another. Disagreement appears marginal. This creates the spiral of silence effect. Everyone stays silent because they believe everyone else agrees. Economic vulnerability. For a large number of people, opposition equals risk. Losing a job, losing income, harming a business, creating problems for family members. This is especially true in regions where employers are closely tied to the state and alternatives are limited. Degrees of fear. It manifests differently. Passive fear, the most widespread. I am against it, but I stay silent. I do not discuss politics. This is not loyalty, it's adaptation. Active fear. Deleting posts, avoiding subscription, refusing to discuss politics event with close friends, worrying about browser's history. We can say about internal division. A person may simultaneously distrust the authorities, distrust the opposition, fear taking any political position. This often leads to apathy and cynicism. Everyone is the same. Nothing makes sense. How fear manifests across social groups? In the middle class. They fear losing status, careers, visas, contracts, reputations. The typical strategy is intelligent silence. Workers and residents of regions. They fear direct consequences, pressure at work, problems with the law enforcement, social isolation. Opposition politics is often perceived as someone else's game. Young people, this social group, their situation is more ambivalent. They tend to have less fever but more cynicism. Common attitudes include: nothing can change, the system is stronger, the main thing is to live or earn money online. Elder generations, they fear house and instability. They discuss, at least things shouldn't get worse, we have already been taught this. For them, opposition is often associated not with freedom, but with the risk of collapse. Why is this fever so persistent? It persists because it's reinforced by real cases, sustained it by uncertainty, effective without requiring mass repression, transmitted through everyday practices. Most importantly, fear does not appear as a fear. It appears as rationality, caution, maturity, responsibility towards one family. In Russian, being afraid to join the opposition is normal in conditions where dissent is personalized, the law is applied selectively, collective support is uncertain. This is not about cowardice. It's about adaptation to the environment. The real problem begins not when people feel fear, but when fear becomes the only possible way of living. Fear does not disappear even among those who have left Russia. Migrants and exile often experience what can be described as the fever of a past. Those who left frequently hear the remark, "What are you afraid of? You are safe now." In reality, this is not entirely true. Their fear is deferred, reflective, and often post-traumatic. It manifests in different questions. What if they can still reach me? What if I am still at risk? What if returning becomes impossible forever? What will happen to those who stay behind? This fear is not always about physical danger. It's often connected with the loss of home, the rupture of identity, the sense of irreversibility, and the feeling of becoming a stranger everywhere. Paradox of silence among those who left. Paradoxically, those who have emigrated often fear speaking out even more than those who remain in Russia. This day seems unexpected, yet it occurs frequently. Several factors contribute to this phenomenon. Fear of harming those who remain in Russia, fear of exposition, exposing relatives or friends to risk, fear of consequences related to the documents, properties, or the possibility of returning, fear of becoming too visible. For many immigrants, a different kind of responsibility emerges. I am responsible for my words. This responsibility is moral and symbolic, often accompanied by the question, do I even have a right to speak? The concept of ear closing, zazhmyurivanie, Ekaterina Shulman. The concept of zazhmyurivanie, ear closing, introduced by the Russian political scientist Ekaterina Shulman, helps explain the psychological dimension of the fear of opposition. The term describes a phenomenon in which individuals consciously avoid engaging the political realities because of the fear of emotional exhaustion. It reflects a preference not to notice political problems in order to preserve personal safety and psychological balance. This is not simply apathy. Rather, it is a strategy for maintaining a psychological equilibrium by ignoring deep political problems that appear unsolvable or dangerous to confront. Shulman emphasizes that this is not a passive indifference. Instead, it's an adaptive strategy. A person understands what has happened but avoids seriously confronting it because the situation appears impossible to influence, systematically risky, disruptive to everyday life. In other words, it is not the absence of information, but a refusal to use that information in analysis. Mechanisms of political eye closing. The concepts reflect several overlapping mechanisms. First, conscious avoidance. People see what had happened but deliberately close their eyes to it. I know, but I pretend not to know. Unlike unconsciousness repression describes in psychoanalysis, this avoidance is partly conscious. Second, survival strategy under risk. Open discussion of traumatic events, such as a war, repression, or restriction, is associated with a high perceived level of threat. As a result, individuals adopt ignorance strategies in order to preserve everyday stability. 3. Collective political ignorance. The phenomenon is not purely individual. When many people around someone else do not notice, ignoring reality, become a social norm which stabilizes the broader system. Behavior forms of political eye closing. Selective attention to news. People follow news that skip heavy topics such as repression, arrests, or criminal cases. Typical phrase: I follow the news but without politics. Politics does not disappear. It is simply pushed out of focus, separating everyday life from politics. A common formula is: let's not talking about politics. Politics is labeled dirty, dangerous, inappropriate, turning it into a social taboo rather than a neutral topic. Humor and irony as a defense. Then direct discussion is risky, humor appears. Memes, sarcasm, unfinished phrases such as, well, you understand how things are here. Humor in this context is not necessarily a form of freedom, but a way to avoid speaking directly. Delegating reality to experts. Another common strategy is, I am not a specialist, let political scientists deal with it. People acknowledge the existence of problems but withdraw from forming their own opinion, reducing anxiety but reinforcing civic passivity. Why eye closing persists? The strategy is remarkably stable because it's rewarded with the everyday calm, preservation of routine life, avoidance of social conflict. It's also socially approved. When eye closing begins to crack? Political eye closing is not permanent. It remains stable only as long as it successfully protects everyday life. Cracks appear when politics intrudes into personal life. Typical triggers include military mobilization on conspiration, criminal prosecution of acquaintances, politically motivated job loss, pressure in schools or universities, professional restrictions or loss of income, inability to leave or return to the country. As long as a person can say, this does not concern me, eye closing works. Then this statement becomes impossible, the mechanism begins to fail. The first stage is collapse of familiar explanations. The second stage is the emotional breakthrough, anger, fear, humiliation, or confusion, often before a person finds the language to articulate these feelings. The third stage involves searching for small exists. Private conversations, anonymous comments, reading forbidden materials quietly, discreet donations, helping victims, or silent emigrations. These actions do not necessarily represent open position. They signal a transition from eye closing to internal dissent. Why this crack matters? Even without possible protest, the appearance of such cracks means that eye closing is no longer total, silence is no longer innocent, reality can no longer be ignored. Society's change is not only one when people protest loudly, but when many individuals quietly stop believing in their own silence. When this occurs in a large scale, the spiral of silence begins to break. Fear may remain, but it ceases to be a solitary experience.